Hi folks, I'm Richard Friedman and welcome to another one of my cartoon countdowns for October 19th, 2022. Every week or so we get together and we do the countdown based upon the popularity on Twitter in terms of impressions, and I kind of shuffle it around and organize it, and I just shoot it out to you, starting off from going from number 4 up to number 1 in popularity. And before we get to the countdown, I just want to show you about my latest book here. This is my latest book. The cover to it. And you can see some of the cartoons here. Right, let's see. The latest things happening. See some of the characters in the committee there. There. And you see some of the stuff. So anyway, I invite you to go to my website, which is richardsbooksofpoliticalcartoons.com, and you could just browse there and see all my other works and my other cartoons, and you could take a kind of an introduction to the book, just a free introduction. All you have to do is just tap in there, and you could see on the link to Amazon, and you can see the preview of my book, which includes about 5 or 6 of the first pages. And then you can look on my other books and you see all the other works I've done, and some more cartoons. So I invite you to go there. It's like a political Disney World, and it's no charge for going, or no entry charge. So I invite you to do that. And now let's have a go at the cartoon countdown, starting off with Numero Cuatro. Okay, here we have Herschel Walker here. This was the debate where he was flashed. He took out his badge and showed us his badge, his honorary badge here in the Georgia debate. Okay, and it goes like this, the introduction. Former President Donald Trump watching the Georgia Senate debate Friday night. Now here's President Trump watching this whole thing. He's watching it, the debate. Now keep in mind, this is more than the fact that he backed Herschel Walker. They had a relationship. They were friends, basically. Herschel had gone to some of his to the golf courses of the former president, and they were seen together as they were basically friends. So what happened here? Okay, President Joe Biden. So what Herschel did? Herschel's who had backed him turned his back to Trump and said, President Joe Biden won the election. That was his exact words. President Joe. When asked who won the election, he said President Joe Biden won the election. Okay, so that you can imagine former President Trump watching this and what he was thinking and saying at the time, and that's what I have here. See, there he goes. There he goes. All right, now let's just finish the introduction here. Joe Biden won amid Walker responding to his opponent. His opponent was Democratic U.S. Senator Raphael Warnock, who's the incumbent. He's already in that position, and he's being challenged, and he's debating here. Herschel Walker, Raphael Warnock is a Democrat, and here he is. This is the rundown to the election here. In I think the only debate that they will have. Okay, so what happened is that Raphael Warnock took a jab at Herschel Walker, saying, "One thing I have not done, I've never pretended to be a police officer." So it put Herschel on the defensive here. Walker then pulling out a seemingly bogus police badge. Okay, that was a Friday, October 17th. So here goes Walker pulling out his police badge here. There he is. And then, you know what's so funny, he says, "I am work with many police officers and at the same time," and then he was cut off. And then here's former President Trump watching all this action here. And he says, "Yeah, at the same time he logged into eBay and bought that honorary badge from their sale on vintage Cracker Jack prizes." Okay? Okay? So President Trump would have been calling him out on the badge that he got, which really doesn't entitle him to have any police enforcement that he could take. He's not. It's more like like my uncle. I had an uncle who used to try to frighten me when I was a kid, saying he was going to arrest my dad and stuff like that, and flash badges at me, all the badges that he had. So he was a nice guy, but enough about that. But that's what the kind of thing it was in terms of the authority of the badge. Okay, the authority of the badge was, there's no authority there. It's just like saying, it's really a token of maybe you do something for somebody and he gives you here's a nice badge, wear it around the house and go to a Halloween party or something like that. I'm the sheriff, Sheriff of Mayberry sheriff or something like that, Sheriff of Mayberry, dress up in a Barney Fife outfit and come with the badge, and you got it made, from Mayberry. If you remember those people who are old enough to remember that show, Aunt Bee and all that, the Mayberry, the Andy Griffin Show, Little Opie and all that. So there, and Don Knotts was the Andy Griffin was the sheriff. Don Knotts was the deputy, and he wore this big badge around. So that's what you could do. Maybe you become assistant to Barney there somewhere, and so that was that. So he flashed a badge, and I'm sure President Trump reacted to that after he said that President Biden won the election. I'm sure there was some reaction there, and I wanted to capture that in some way, and I think I have done that here. There he is. President Trump. Okay. Número 3 de la semana, number 3 of the week here. Here we have the bar mitzvah party attended by former President Trump way back in 2017. Basically, this is a fictional story here, but the truth is here, where I'm going to go into the introduction. Former President Donald Trump and his former Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin, 2017 flashback. Given with only 19, and this is what's happening now, given with only 19% of American Jews now holding a favorable view of the former president, he has warned American Jews to, quote, get their act together. He has get their act together and appreciate what they have. So basically, he sees himself as sort of like maybe he said he has a lot of, he could become, I'm not sure of this now, but I think sometimes I hear things and I say, that can't be, he couldn't have said that, and then I have to watch it 5 times to say, oh yeah, I guess he said it. Sometimes, so this might be one of those things that, but I think he said he could be elected to the top position in Israel if he ran. I think I heard him say that. I'm not sure, but that's that's sort of like a off the cuff remark. So it might not be so, but I thought I heard him say that. So, and he said that he's done a lot for Israel, you know, and I guess now that's in my opinion. He sees himself as a second, as like a second coming of Moses, maybe. He sees himself that way. Not that he is, in that respect, that he's done so much for Israel and for the Jewish people. So, and now he feels betrayed by that low percent, by that 19%, and so he's whacking back here. So here's the cartoon from 2017 that I did, and this was in another incident here where Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin's fellow Jewish classmates from Yale University, class of 1985, urged him to resign from Trump administration as the Treasury Secretary from response to white supremacy groups by President Trump. Mnuchin's response, Trump's thoughts here, okay? So here is Mnuchin, who Mnuchin is like the lone survivor. You ever see a movie, The Lone Survivor, where this guy was in, I think it was in Afghanistan, and all his buddies were killed, and he was taken back. He escaped, and he was taken in by people who betrayed him, and then he was captured, and then he escaped, and he finally got free at the end of the movie, and he got back, and he was the lone survivor of an ambush in Afghanistan, a bloody ambush. So I guess you could say, in a way, in sort of a metaphorical way, that Steve Mnuchin is like the lone survivor of the Trump administration, because he was there from the beginning of it and at the end. There were other people, but he was one of the, let's say, he was one of the lone survivors, okay? He was definitely one of the lone survivors, okay, Steve Mnuchin. Okay, so here, and this is the reason why, probably, okay, here he goes. So under that pressure, Mnuchin was taken at the time to resign because of the response of Trump to these white supremacy groups. Okay, I'm not going to go into that because it's not necessary to do that. And if it's not, it's the point that it was inappropriate and not presidential for him to say what he said. And you could research that. Okay, back to 2017, and this cartoon was August 18th, 2017. So you go back to August 18th, 2017, and Google it, and you'll see the story. Okay, so anyway, so here is Mnuchin, and he goes, "I feel compelled to let you know the president is not a racist. Here he is having a good time at a bar mitzvah." So there he is, and he makes up, this is a story. So here he is at the bar mitzvah here. There's Trump with his cap on there, the yarmulke there, and there's the family, and 13-year-old getting bar mitzvah there. And there's a rabbi, and there's parents. And there's former President Trump taking part in the festivities, you know. So I'm not going to say, I'll let you, there it is. Just zoom in on that. Okay. Okay, now, Numero dos de la semana, number 2 of the week. Here we go. And here we have, again, President Trump. And this is a Fox News flash that he's watching. This is a Fox News flash. Okay, October 13th, 2022. And here's what's going on here. Former President Donald Trump watching Fox News flash on OPEC, including Saudi Arabia. They say that OPEC was the leader in, Saudi Arabia was the leader, kind of like the leader of OPEC in kind of way that America, is to NATO, with the NATO forces. They say this is what I hear, that Saudi Arabia is like the leading nation among OPEC nations. So that may or may not be true, but that's what I heard someone say that. OPEC, including Saudi Arabia, cutting oil production in the wake of President Biden fist bump with Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. The former president thinking back to May of 2017, when then president he joined a ceremonial sword dance while on a visit to Saudi Arabia. Okay. The dance event just ahead of a banquet at the historic Maraba Palace. Okay. So there he was doing his President Trump. I think he did the sword dance with Rex Tillerson, who was then his first Secretary of State. I think it was Rex Tillerson. Okay. There was no need to put Rex into the sword dance, Didn't have enough room for that, and wouldn't have made any point. The point was that here's President Trump here doing his sword dance. He's thinking back to his good relation, at that moment in time, what a good relationship he was expecting to have with Saudi Arabia. And there he is with the sword and he's doing the sword dance, the ceremonial sword dance. There he is, you see, with a smile, enjoying himself, and next to another Saudi Arabian, perhaps official of some kind. Okay, at the historic, and then after that they went over to the Maraba Palace for a banquet feast of some kind. And here is the Fox News flash that former President Trump is watching here. Okay, Senator Dick Durbin, flashback, Fox News flashback. Senator Dick Durbin, Democrat, Illinois, admits Biden's Saudi Arabia outreach fist bump didn't work following OPEC Plus members cut oil production. So President Biden feels, and he said this, that that Saudi Arabia is basically siding with Russia in this conflict within Ukraine, and in doing that, or encouraging that, or supporting that, and being part of that OPEC decision. And Saudi Arabia has come out and said, well, this was a business decision based upon the fact that years down the road they have to prepare, because that's their only source of income. They have to prepare for the fact that, but you heard Biden today talking about we're going to become a battery. We're going to start building batteries and developing batteries with all the resources we can muster to compete with China. So that means basically, in about 20 years or so, that he wants, or 10 or 20 years or something like that, not too long, I mean, in relative to time, that he wants to see this country on an electric operation and away from these fossil fuels, dependent on fossil fuels, dependent on OPEC, and energy independent on electricity, and not being dependent on China's batteries for that electricity and their resources. And so he's talking about developing resources and developing batteries, and really going at it. So that could make the Saudis nervous. Say, what are we going to do? What are we going to do when nobody wants our oil anymore? What are we going to do? So then another thing is that once we do become that, we'll be exporting all these cars to all these countries throughout the world, and so what will they do with those oil? You can't take a bath in oil, right? Can't drink oil. The only thing you can do is use it for cars and things like that. And there'll be things, obviously, there'll be things that will still be, but it won't be like today. So you could argue that point. That is a valid point that they have there. So the way you would look at it is the way, you take it the way you see it. So anyway, so that's it. So but former President Trump, no doubt, saw it in this way, based upon his past remarks. There he is, here, watching the Fox News alert, and he's thinking back to that sword dance, and what he's saying here is, no Maraba Palace for Biden, not even for his fist bump. That is not going to stop the bump in gas prices. If I had been reinstated as president after that rigged election, with my Saudi sword dances, all that needed Saudi oil would have been flowing like maple syrup at an IHOP pancake house. So he's saying that, or everybody, going there, you always see people with the pancakes in the morning, with the syrup, the maple syrup. Well, that's why oil would have been flowing into the United States if he had been reinstated as president after that rigged election. So there you have it. Another pass at this. There's the former President Trump doing his Saudi dance, Toyota, back in 2017. That was back in 2017, May of 2017, and there you have it here. If you want to go back there, he was with, I believe he was with his first Secretary of State, Rex Tillerson. I believe so. Oh, he was an oil man himself. It's interesting. So there you have it. There you go. Former President Trump, Saudi dance, Fox News alert, President Trump. Okay. Okay, now we get to numero uno de la semana. This is number one of the week. And here we have the late Justice Scalia, Anton Scalia here. Okay. His ghost coming back to the Supreme Court. There's President Trump. And there's Clarence Thomas on top of the Supreme Court. That's Clarence Thomas that I drew. Supreme Court, former President Trump, and the ghost of Anton Scalia returns. Okay, I'll read the introduction to you. The ghost of Supreme Court Justice Anton Scalia returns, giving his dissenting opinion on the court's intervention in the Mar-a-Lago special master dispute. So that since then, that court has rejected taking the case. I ain't saying I had anything to do with that, but I'm just saying, luckily for the United States, that the court, and it was unanimous, even Clarence Thomas, and even Jenny couldn't get him to be the one dissenting vote. Maybe he won't get any pumpkin pie this Thanksgiving for that. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe Justice Thomas won't get his pumpkin pie this Thanksgiving for not being the one dissenting vote in taking former President Trump's case. That basically, here it goes. Giving his dissenting opinion on the court's intervention in the Mar-a-Lago special master dispute, following Trump asking the court to ensure that the more than 100 documents, about 103 documents or so, marked as classified are part of the special master's review. So the fact is that the special master didn't even want to see these documents because he took the word of the FBI in the investigation. There's no need for me to see this. So there you have President Trump. You could argue that President Trump wanted his attorneys to once the special master had it, then he could probably put pressure on the. I'm speculating on the special master to show it to his attorneys who would better defend him. You could argue that. But I'm not saying that was it. Okay, you could argue that. Okay. Also, following an appellate court ruling that prevented the special master from examining the documents. Okay, so that was U.S. Federal Judge Eileen Cannon's ruling that directed that. She said no, she just short-circuited the whole investigation, saying, no, the FBI cannot see this now. It has to go first to the special master, who has the initial authority to decide what's to be done about this, in terms of what's to be taken and what's not to be taken, and going through all that, delaying the process. And meanwhile, people's lives who are out there in the countries have to sweat it out, knowing that they could be revealed as a secret agent to enemy people. So, I mean, that's all right. Anyway, also following an appellate court ruling that prevented the special master from examining the documents, a ruling that reversed Trump-appointed U.S. District Judge Eileen Cannon's ruling that directed, as I just said, she directed that the special master be giving that ahead of the Justice Department. She was putting handcuffs on Eileen Cannon was putting handcuffs on the Justice Department, basically. In terms of this investigation, she was handcuffing the Justice Department because they couldn't get these documents that they needed for the investigation, because she was tying it up with the special master for review. That's what it comes down to, So, all right, so let's have a go at the cartoon now. So here we have President Trump making his case in front of the Supreme Court. This is really a moot point now, because, like I said, the Supreme Court unanimously rejected taking the case. But I didn't know that then. That was going to happen that way when I did this cartoon. Okay, so that was October 11th. Okay. Number one, I, Donald J. Trump, appeal that the appeals court that overturned U.S. Judge Eileen Cannon's initial order did not have the authority. This is not justice, I argue. And then here goes the ghost of Scalia comes down, and he says, number one, I argue using the reduction to the absurd argument. I had to look up some of Scalia's opinions and see the kind of arguments that he raised. So he would take a legal principle, if there was a controversy, and he'd reduce it to something that was so common, almost a common sense thing, and reduce it to make it look absurd by reducing it to something that was sort of like an analogy on a very simple level, and say, well, this is that, and therefore this is also ridiculous. So that was his legal strategy in his explanation for some of his decisions, and for objecting to or dissenting in other cases, probably. Okay, so number one, I argue using the reduction to the absurd argument that the court should not even hear the special master dispute, because it appears the special master accepts the classified documents as classified without even looking at them. This case opens a floodgate of absurd cases that could be brought by Trump in November. So we don't have to go into that. We know what's coming in very soon now in November, the midterm elections. So then here goes Justice Thomas. Now he retorts on top of the Supreme Court. He took the case officially. There was nothing about him that was wrong, and he was just the person assigned to accept this, to take this and present it to the Supreme Court. There was no connection between him happening to be the justice who took the case to the Supreme Court and the exchange that took place. So he was just acting like a postman in a way. So there's no implication that he did anything wrong, or because of his views he took the case. He first initially accepted the case. That's just the way it worked out. Okay, that should be made clear. Okay, so speaking of November, and then he goes, speaking of November, my wife Ginny is planning a victory party with lots of pumpkin pie for all those great state victories to come. Okay, there it goes. Okay, so there was former President Trump. Let's zoom in on the Supreme Court. Justice Scalia. The ghost of Justice Scalia. And Justice Clarence Thomas on top of the Supreme Court taking the case there. Okay, folks, I want to thank you very much for watching my cartoon countdown for today. And you take care of yourselves, stay well, and God bless you, and God bless America. And I'll see you next time. Bye.